Hey, this is Robert at Robert Gardner Wellness. We're going to talk about brining chickens today. Brining meats is a way of making the meat more savory, of adding a small amount of salt, and making it more flavorful. It's a wonderful way to create a situation where you can cook meat at a higher temperature, create more caramelization, and allow the meat to not dry out. If I would take the chickens that I have this evening and just roast them as they are, they would probably be very good. They will not be as good as if I brined them. My friends and family all are in complete awe when they have something as simple as a roast chicken meal at my home, because the meat is so flavorful and moist. It creates a sort of foolproof way of cooking it, because again, I can cook it at a higher temperature and the meat won't dry out. It'll almost have a slightly different texture depending on how much salt and water is picked up. You can look online and find videos with Alton Brown at Good Eats. You can also find information from Harold McGee on food and cooking. He has a regular column in a newspaper where he talks about food chemistry. That is some of what we'll be covering in my series on food. But specifically today, I wanted to talk about brining. Brine chickens is a great way to start this. It's kind of a middle of the road. Beyond chicken, you can also work with pork, and you can work with things, seafood like shrimp. Shrimp are very small comparatively, so you brine them for a shorter period of time. But once you get a general idea, a general understanding of the concepts involved in brining meat, you'll be able to adjust it to your own taste, making it a little more salty, a little less salty. You can see that I have in the sink 4 broilers, and I have a stock pot of cold water. I have just about 2 cups of kosher salt, and we're going to use this for the brine. The brine that I'm doing today is extremely simple. I'm just going to add the 2 cups of kosher salt to the water. And we're going to slowly mix that by hand to go ahead and make sure it dissolves. The saltwater bath, the brine that we're putting the chickens in, is going to infuse the meat with salt. It's going to also help it absorb some moisture. It means that we have a foolproof way of roasting the birds without losing moisture content, because we've actually increased the amount of moisture in the birds themselves. You can cook them at a higher temperature. You'll get a lovely browned skin, lots of caramelization, those Maillard reactions that Alton Brown and Harold McGee are so fond of talking about. And it'll make for a wonderfully tasty bird, a tasty roast chicken. This is one of my favorite meals, and I'm glad to be able to show you how to brine. I'm going to take the hens, the broilers, and go ahead and place them in the saltwater bath one at a time. And they are just going to sit for a period of around 4 hours. You want to make sure that the birds are completely submerged. And if you'd like, if you want to leave them for a longer period of time, the longer you leave them, the more of the salt they will absorb. You can add ice to the water bath, the saline bath. In this instance, I'm just doing this. You could also add things like peppercorns, other spices that you'd care to. I tend to leave mine plain. The brine that we're using on the chickens today is going to improve their flavor. It's also going to allow the meat to stay more moist as we cook it at a higher temperature, providing those wonderful browning reactions that Alton Brown and Harold McGee are so fond of talking about, called Maillard, after a French gentleman. Using other meats like shrimp or pork are an excellent way to use this as well. They're also wonderful on the grill. If you like things like pork loin, brining it first means you can heat the grill to a very high temperature and get a good sear on the outside while allowing the meat to stay slightly pink on the inside. The only meat that I can think of that can't really be used this way is beef. It's a very simple way to improve food quality. Realize that we're also using kosher salt, and salt is used as something to clean meat. In Jewish culinary tradition, blood was taken out of animals. The reason kosher salt is called kosher is because the large granules could sit on top of meat and help draw out blood, which is contrary to Jewish dietary regimen in the Old Testament. Kosher salt is cheap, inexpensive. Salt is highly available and a wonderful way to increase the flavor of foods. There's something almost magical about what salt can do to a typical chicken and transform it into something that is absolutely wonderful. Many restaurants like Popeyes, churches, other maybe Kentucky Fried Chicken, some of them are brining the meats, I believe, in advance, although they may not be telling you that they are in their restaurants. So try it at home. Start small. I find roast chicken to be a simple way to start this out. It's relatively foolproof. I've never been able to over-salt a piece of meat, though I have had it be under-salted for my taste.